now it is Cinco de Mayo, so happy Cinco de Mayo to you as well. It's the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. I do this show every Tuesday and every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Jane Unchained. And I started it during COVID times, and now it's just going to go on forever because there's so much interest in this topic. But I started it originally because I wanted to make sure that people were making the connection between eating meat and using our dollars to pay for the production of meat and meat-borne pandemics. And I think as we've painfully learned now during COVID-19, that these have an enormous toll on our lives, on our economy, on our welfare, on our mental well-being, on our families. It's not how we want to live out our lives. But of course, COVID-19 isn't the only meat-borne pandemic. Mad cow disease, Ebola, SARS, bird flu, swine fevers raging through China now. So this isn't a one and done. So as we start to open up, I'm going to continue to do the Plant-Based Business Hour so that we can have a safer future. We need a safer food supply. A safer food supply is plant-based foods. So that's what we get into here on the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'll have lots of analysts and CEOs and small businesses that are really moving to change the world through what we eat. So what better segue do I have than to bring on my guests today who are all about Eat the Change. I want to bring on now Seth Goldman, former executive chair of Beyond Meat, and Jonah Goldman, who is the co-founder of PLNT Burger. And Seth also has Eat the Change. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Really nice to be with you.
Nice of you to be with me. So much to talk about. So, Seth, in many ways, you are plant-based royalty, I'll say, because of all that you've done with Beyond Meat, and so much to share there. But first, I really want to dive into, and let me give a little background, just in case, in the off chance someone doesn't know you, which is very hard. I'll say you were the executive chair of Beyond Meat from 2013 to 2020. You are now the founder of Eat the Change with Julie Farkas, your wife, and you are co-founder with Jonah here, who's going to talk to us all about PLNT Burger, a new quick serve restaurant. I'll be very interested to see why you decided to go from the product side to retail side and all that Jonah has to share with us on this experience. Of course, previously you were the TEO and founder of Honest Tea, and that was sold to Coca-Cola. And you did share your time at Coca-Cola with venturing and emerging brands as the TEO emeritus and innovation catalyst. You basically have the coolest job titles ever. Okay, so this long history, where are you now? I'll start with Seth, but of course I want Jonah to chime in. Where are you now with Eat the Change, and how does this organization work with PLNT Burger?
Yeah, so just this year we launched Eat the Change, and it's really a platform to help the whole population move towards healthier, more planet-friendly diets. And so we are launching a brand called Eat the Change. That'll be a consumer brand, package brand. Earlier this year, we launched a grants program, so we're giving away $1 million over the next 3 years to nonprofits that are focused on helping move people towards more planet-friendly diets. And those grants and those applications are available right now, so we encourage people to visit eatthechange.org. And then one of the platforms, one of the businesses that we're launching as part of Eat the Change is PLNT Burger. And as you noted, both Jonah and my wife Julie and I are all co-founders, members of the founding team for this business. And it's so exciting because it is a direct application of this concept of eating the change. You know, we're trying to put delicious, planet-friendly foods into people's mouths. And Jonah is leading up the marketing and just doing a fantastic job getting people excited about this, helping them realize how delicious this kind of food can be. And of course, how it's better for them and the planet too.
Yes, and your family, as you've noted, it's a family affair in a way with Eat the Change, and you are all very environmentally focused, very animal focused, very socially responsible focused, which is so wonderful. I want to stress there for those of you who are interested in receiving perhaps part of $1 million, which is going to be given over the next 3 years. The application process ends May 15th, so you still have time to apply, right? It's not closed.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I wanted to also go over the tenets that you have for those who want to apply and what you hope to accomplish. So eating with intention.
Yes.
Excuse me, fact-based science. I'll let you take it because I'm going to take some water.
Democratizing plant-based food and planet-friendly food. Historically, a lot of people have assumed that planet-friendly food is only available to the wealthy and to the folks who live on the coast, but this whole approach to eating, we want to see democratized, made available to everybody. And whether it's economically diverse, geographically diverse, population diverse, to make sure all types of different people from all types of different backgrounds are getting exposed to this kind of diet. And then the last pillar is innovation. We know the current system isn't working, and so we've got to, as a society, have to find new ways to bring planet-friendly food to people. And so there's some really neat models out there, and we want to explore the folks who are really trying different approaches. We just highlighted one yesterday about a market in LA that has found a really innovative way to bring planet-friendly foods to people in urban LA, and that's something that hadn't been done very well before. So that's the kind of approach we'd love to see expanded.
Well, I think Eat the Change is interesting to me because it seems to be a mission-driven organization that fosters non-for-profits as well as businesses. So you've got that innovation tool, and Plant Burger would be one of those for-profit companies under the umbrella, and yet you have this non-for-profit mission of education.
Yeah, well, because it's going to take every aspect of our society to shift our diet. And so, I think of us as a family of activists. We aren't just business people. We aren't just nonprofit people. We really are trying to tackle this from every angle. And so we're working in complement with each other.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I love this concept of eating the change and hashtag Planet Delicious. How could that be any better? Jonah, talk to me about why you wanted to co-found something with your dad, first of all. That can either be very tricky business or smooth sailing, depending. And then why Plant Burger?
Sure. So it all really started, very long ago when we started to really ask questions about where our food came from, and as a family transition towards being plant-based eaters. And that process was, for me, a really wonderful learning opportunity to think about where does our food come from? What are the implications of eating particularly industrially raised animals? How do we feel about that, and is that sustainable or not? And so from that very early stage, it planted the seed, if you will, of creating businesses that would serve the same products that we always craved, but never really could enjoy. So as a 10-year-old, my favorite food was a delicious, juicy burger. But then the second I became vegetarian, I lost that. And we would travel around, the best thing we could get was going to a Wendy's and having a bun with lettuce and tomato, and that was literally, or pickles, but that was it. That was the sandwich, and so it was something that was really missing from our lives. And so I always had wanted to have the same indulgence, the same deliciousness from my favorite foods, which again were burgers, hot dogs. But it was something that I never was able to sink my teeth into until quite recently. And so I studied food systems, and I had the privilege of working with an early stage Beyond Meat in 2013, and got to see the R&D going on and taste the greatness before a product like the Beyond Burger was really introduced into the market. And it made me understand that this is my passion in life. I wanted to find out how I could play a role in transforming the food system and reclaiming food security, building a more resilient plant-based system that again can serve people and the planet in a way that is much better than what is currently happening.
I love that you say this because you hit on so many things that are topical right now. The chairman of the board of Tyson put out a full page ad saying that the system is breaking. And on this show, we talk about the system is broken. It has long been broken. And those businesses aren't essential businesses. I've been living without meat and dairy for a while now. There are many cultures around the world that live on rice and beans and thrive. So these are not essential businesses, and they are not breaking. They are broken. That food system is broken. So I love that you talk about re-envisioning a food system and how that relates to Eat the Change. That educational component is you can't emphasize this enough, because I don't think people realize that our food, of course, as we know, it touches everything. And so if you don't have food security, you don't have women in schools. If you don't have women in schools, then you don't have a strong workforce, because 50% of your smartest talent is at home. I mean, it touches everything we do. So I see the overarching scale, and then the small scale of, not small, but more focused scale of Plant Burger. So
And
maybe I could
just to build on that. I mean,
please.
that is easily the single biggest impact any of us has on the planet is what we eat. You know, we get to vote maybe every 4 years or 2 years. We get to buy a car maybe every 6 years. But what we eat every day is the single biggest driver of our environmental footprint. And if we collectively could make a change there, that would be more profound for what's happening in global warming than any other step any of us could take.
Yes, I love that you say that. I talk about this a lot on the show, that we are indeed very empowered. And so if you watch TV, you might be frustrated, regardless of whether you're on the left or the right. You might just watch politics in general and be a little bit frustrated. But indeed, everybody is after your dollars. And when you align your purchasing power with your values, you speak very loudly. And if you double up on that and add your voice, you speak so incredibly loudly that you do have the power. And you really will see a shift in the world when you make that alignment for yourself. And it will affect, as you say, not just your health, and you'll maybe shed some weight and feel a little better, but it affects pandemics, our jobs, our economy. It is all very interconnected.
And that's why the name Eat the Change is so powerful. And I should make sure to give Jonah credit, because he's the one who came up with that phrase. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love this family of smart entrepreneurs really wanting to make a difference, and for using the skill sets that you both have and using that for good. I am so deeply grateful there. So let me ask you, I would be remiss if I didn't say, well, what did all your years at Beyond Meat bring to the table for this endeavor now?
Sure. Well, and it's even earlier than Beyond Meat. It's also Honest Tea, and it's that whole approach to, this, when you want to make change happen, you can't forget the consumer. And so, we can preach about how important it is to save the planet, but we have to make delicious products available, and they have to be accessible. So price accessible, brand accessible, and taste accessible. And so one of the things Beyond Meat has done so fabulously is create especially the burger, but even the sausage and those products are wonderful and without compromise. And so as we looked at this restaurant, one of the great things we were able to do is our co-founder is a chef named Spike Mendelsohn, who's just a fabulous chef. And so let's get one of the top, he is a top chef. He won the show Top Chef a few years ago. So let's find one of the best chefs out there to create delicious burgers that are great, period. Not great for a veggie burger, just great tasting, juicy burgers.
Ideally better than an animal-based burger.
Yeah. And so it has to start with that. And once we get that, then we can create a fun brand, an engaging brand. I like the play on words of Plant Burger or Planet Burger or Plenty Burger, Pleasant Burger, if you could keep going.
Yeah.
So making it fun, not being preachy. Yes, there's a very powerful impact and mission to this business, but that's not what's going to sell burgers. What's going to sell burgers is a delicious, fun brand that brings people in where people want to be and can nourish themselves and nourish the planet at the same time.
But both Beyond Meat and Honest Tea were consumer products, and here you're retail. So the retail's always a little dicey. How do you feel about making that move?
Well, it's always good to take on a new challenge. You might say this is the wrong time to go into the restaurant business because of what's happened. But one of the things I'm thankful for is that all of our Plant Burger locations are housed within Whole Foods. And that makes it possible for us to stay open because the stores are still open. There's still consumers there. And of course, we can make sure everything's being done in a way that's safe for our employees, safe for our customers. And I'm not afraid of any entrepreneur by definition shouldn't be afraid of a new challenge. So to me, it's a new angle, a new dimension, and that's what makes it fun.
Jonah, maybe you can talk to me about this slide that I'm going to throw up. I'm sorry, if I take myself out of it, you can't hear my voice. So let me give the question and then I'll get out of it so you can see the slide a little bigger. I am very surprised by the prices here. They are so incredibly reasonable. Can you talk to me about your strategy and pricing there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know we have to be relevant to our community, and we have this value act with intention, and so our first store is actually intentionally located in Silver Spring, which is a really diverse, beautiful, colorful community. Yeah, Silver Spring, Maryland. So it's been incredibly rewarding to see that we are relevant from a price standpoint, from an economic standpoint, to serve all these different demographics of people who come in and enjoy burgers. And as my father said,
It has to be something that if we want to really democratize it, it can't be only exclusive and available to people who are in higher income brackets. It really does need to be, and ultimately, we hope to drop these prices even more. And as we're seeing now with the meat industry going into crisis mode, that if we're able to undercut the price of meat and provide a product that is more tasty or as tasty, whatever your opinion is, but has less health risk, is tastier, is cheaper, then I think we're really going to start to see a monumental shift in the way that we consider our protein. Again, per serving, the Beyond Meat burger has more protein than an animal-based patty. You look at the environmental benefits: 99% less water, 93% less land generates, 90% fewer greenhouse gas emissions. And just one final point that I want to brag about our chef, because when we think about relevance to the mainstream target market of people who just want a tasty burger, they may not identify as a plant-based eater. They're someone who's just coming around looking for a good burger. On blind taste tests, we are really performing quite well. We've had customers who've come to us for months on end and didn't realize that we were serving plant-based food until we had a conversation, a personal conversation, where we broke it down and said, actually, this is a plant-based patty, and it took other customers backing it up for them to actually believe it. And so again, it's all about substituting, but not really substituting, more uplifting people to say, here's an even tastier burger. It's going to be as, or maybe just at this point, a little bit more expensive than an animal-based patty, and you should feel good about your health and environmental impact after that.
And just to be clear, our menu does say it's all plant-based, and we don't want to make it sound like we're trying to be deceptive with our marketing. Everything says plant-based, but it was people who've been handed a burger and had ordered it off the menu.
I see what you're saying. Well, you're hitting all of the things necessary. So it has to be a price that people can afford, a convenience, and of course it has to taste good. And I love that the discussion is now going to tasting better, to even not just meeting it where it is and being a one-for-one replacement, but actually uplifting and being better. I also want to give people a little bit of reference. You're quoting a University of Michigan study there for 99% less water, 93% less land, 90% gas house emissions, and 40% less energy that was done on Beyond Meat. Well, you did bring up what we're going through with meat situation right now. And I wondered if you guys have seen, it's hard because you're a restaurant during COVID time, so you don't have a normal business scenario. But I'm wondering what kind of reaction you're getting, people coming through the Whole Foods where, actually, let me step back. You're in Maryland, in Whole Foods. Will you be expanding? And also, what has your customer base been saying about the current situation? And are they making a connection between eating meat and ill health?
Yeah, we have been, I think, happily surprised to see that during this really, unpredictable time that we're in, our sales have continued in a good direction. That's been quite gratifying to see, and I think slowly but surely people are starting to put together the dots between coronavirus and carnivorous, which happen to be anagrams.
Yes, they are.
But I think it's challenging because for whatever reason, people see industrial agriculture as separate from these pandemics, when really they're a huge risk factor. And you think about the conditions these animals are living under, the sanitation, the antibiotic resistance that they're building up from being fed all of these pharmaceutical products. It is, in my view, and I'm just speaking as Jonah Goldman, a ticking time bomb until something even worse happens. And I think, it is a time for us to pause and think about what was going on. How can we transition towards a healthier food system, and one that doesn't create these sorts of threats? And we definitely have expanded our customer base during this time. And it's really what we say is it's about the planet, and it's about creating a more plentiful, just food system for everybody. And we want to empower consumers really to understand that you have immense power, not just with your single purchase, but you can talk to your friends and your family, and through that collective action, create that shift.
And to answer your question about expansion, we did just open our second store last month, and we are looking to open another one this month. So we're one of the few restaurant chains, maybe in the world, that's actually growing as opposed to shutting its doors and contracting.
And everything is in Maryland at the moment, correct?
No, we launched one in Washington, D.C. Last month. And so it's all locally based just because at this point, we're not traveling. But, we expect to see it grow as we come out of this lockdown.
Thank you for that. I just want to, and I've got to get to a plant burger, of course, here in Los Angeles and Chicago, where I split my time. I have not been to one yet, but hopefully you're going to be expanding to both Chicago and Los Angeles. Yeah. Okay, I'm counting on you. I just want to riff off a little bit of what Jonah was saying. We kill about 70 billion land animals a year. That's just land animals, not including fish. And we're only about 7 billion people on the planet. So only 7 out of 77 breathing entities on the planet are social distancing. Mm-hmm. The other 70 million are in cage, nose to nose, not social distancing by forced effort on our part. Almost impossible to not have another pandemic. And there's nothing that says you can't have 2 or 3 pandemics at the same time of different strains. So I think, as you're saying, a ticking time bomb, Jonah, I couldn't agree more. The world actually is not social distancing because only 10% of us are actually doing it. So I think pandemics could potentially be here to stay. And swine fever is raging through China right now. So there doesn't seem any relenting of that. So it is tricky business. Okay, let me just pick up a little bit because I know, of course, Beyond Meat burgers are what's in a plant burger. Right. And Beyond Meat has been very adamant and proud of no GMOs. And I'm wondering, as an environmental family, where you guys stand on that.
Oh, well, look, going back to Honest Tea, which was the first brand of organic bottled tea, we're very much of the belief that nature is amazing the way it was created. And so one of the core values of Plant Burger is to celebrate and respect the source. And so we are quite happy with this world that exists as it exists, and don't feel the need to use genetic engineering to change it. So for us, we're very much in that camp. I guess that's not a surprise.
Yes, right. Not a surprise. Just because you are seeing more and more plant-based products out there in the marketplace, something I'd like to talk to you about. And GMOs are playing a role for sure. Yeah. So you have this umbrella of Eat the Change, and part of it, beyond the education, is to support innovation. And so I'm assuming that by that you mean other plant-based products out there and other entrepreneurs.
It's both other entrepreneurs, but it's also other approaches to promoting plant-based diets. So I mentioned this market in LA. It's finding new ways, new distribution. Like here we are, right? This is a terrible crisis we're in. But one of the things I've said before is that the Chinese character for crisis is 2 different elements. One of the elements is danger, and the other element is opportunity. So there's real danger here, right? The danger is health danger, economic danger, but the opportunity is real as well. And there's an opportunity right now and the months ahead, years ahead, to transform the way we eat, the way we interact with people. And so I think that's why we want to be able to seek out innovation. If someone has developed a different way to inspire people to move towards plant-based food, to deliver plant-based food, we want to support that. So from the Eat the Change, the nonprofit perspective, that's what we'll be funding for nonprofits. And with the for-profit, we're going to be bringing some really fun, different types of foods to market. Once again, always whole food, organic, and plant-based, but to make those available and accessible to people as well.
Can you share any of the kinds of products that might be coming to market?
Not yet, because we are our chefs was literally in here today working on them. So it probably won't launch until early next year, which sounds far away, but at this point, people aren't launching new things in grocery stores just because there's such a disruption happening. But we will be really look forward to sharing them at the time we do launch. And I promise I'll come back and share them with you.
Okay, because I'm going to have you back to share it. But I'll just maybe ask the question in a slightly different way, reversing the question, not maybe what products are we going to see, but do you feel that we've reached a saturation point with plant-based burgers from... No, you don't.
If you, to use a baseball analogy, we're probably in the bottom of the first inning. This is just getting started. Yeah, so we're really at the tip of the iceberg. And to put it in the bigger context, plant-based meat is less than 1% of the overall meat category. You can look at what's happened to plant-based dairy, where plant-based dairy is about 13% of the dairy category and growing, while that other part of the business is contracting. So we're going to see much more of this happen over the years ahead. And so it's exciting. I mean, to put this in a historical context, our generation, our time on Earth will be a pivotal moment where people no longer refer to meat as protein from an animal. Meat is a configuration of amino acids and lipids, and fats and proteins. They don't, by definition, have to come from an animal. And so this will be something where by the time Jonah's children or grandchildren are growing up, they'll find it hard to believe that our generation relied on a system of growing and harvesting billions of living sentient creatures to nourish ourselves. And they'll say, why did you do that when you could have fed yourself only relying on plants?
Because the protein is in plants. Just a spoiler alert, everyone, protein does not come from animals. Protein comes from plants and microbes. And then from there, the animals eat them. And then we wait, tick tock, we give them water, we give them land. Oh, we still don't have any meat yet. Hold on, we're still waiting. We're cutting down trees to grow more grains. Still waiting, tick tock. Oh, then later, after spending all these resources, we get protein, which we could have gotten right in the beginning. I actually have a prediction here. I'm going to say that the meat aisle is no longer going to be called the meat aisle, and it's going to be called the protein aisle.
That's right. Yeah.
Come on, Lucky Seven.
That vision attracted to me Beyond Meat back in 2012. That's the vision that Ethan Brown had, and that drew me in.
And Beyond Meat was also the first product to be sold in the meat aisle and try to be a part of that paradigm shift towards the protein aisle.
Right.
Yes. So very exciting. So what do you look for? I'll say Seth, but also Jonah, because you're going to be working with other entrepreneurs. What do you look for in an entrepreneur when you're looking to fund them? Because I think that can be very helpful for people.
Well, the starting point is a passion and a vision for change, right? It has to be a vision about how things can be different. And then it has to be an authenticity to it. It has to be a believability to it. So, we're here, our father and son, and it's easy to assume that I'm the one who's created the opportunities. But, as I look at Jonah, he was the one who convinced our family to become vegetarian 14 years ago. Yes, I'm still very pleased at that. Yeah. But when we started to think about, who would be an effective advocate for a plant burger, I knew Jonah would be, the one to come on and lead the marketing. And so it's that authenticity that's so critical. And it's also a vision for how to make things differently, how to do things differently. And then, a critical piece that you can't ignore is just not just a work ethic, but a commitment to, resilience. Is this something that I and we and that person believes in enough that they are going to be at it relentlessly? And, it's nice for us to be here in an office and talk, but this is hard work. Restaurants are hard work. It's really intense right now. I mean, you're dealing with, people who can be scared, consumers who might be scared, employees who are scared. And so, I was with Jonah last week when we made some deliveries to some of the health. We're running a promotion right now where when consumers buy a meal, we'll donate a meal to a healthcare worker. And so we went to several different health hospitals last week, and it was gratifying, but it's also like, this is an intense moment. And so how do you make sure you can keep that resilience and passion in building the business?
Yeah, it isn't for the faint of heart at all to be an entrepreneur. You have to be willing to fall on your face and get back up as if nothing happened and keep throwing yourself at the wall until finally you make it through. Jonah, I'm wondering if you have anything to add, because as Seth says, you are co-founder of PLNT Burger. So what are you finding? Because you're boots on the ground, aren't you? You're there all the time, even working the lines. At least those are the pictures that I've seen. So, it's physical demanding work. What are you learning from founding of PLNT Burger?
It's been one gigantic adventure so far, and I would add, I think you said it really well, that there's no such thing as failure. You either succeed or you learn. And
so true.
And not everything that we've done has worked, but we're able to bounce back from those experiences with a deeper understanding of what can we do next time, and also learning from our industry best practices. We're not afraid to reach out to the other restaurateurs in our community and ask them what they've done well, and observe and interact with them to really, I think, maximize and streamline our operation.
One of the great things Jonah did early on, because we knew the key to the restaurant success would be traffic. We just got to get people in the door. And so he partnered with all these different nonprofits and called these fundraisers, where Monday night and Tuesday night, which are usually the slower nights, he'd say, you come in, bring your people in, and whatever we make at the from those dinner hour from 5 to 9, we'll give 20% of it to the nonprofit. And it was one of the neatest parts of it is that the first nonprofit we partnered with was Poplar Springs Animal Sanctuary, which was the animal sanctuary that first inspired Jonah and then our family to become vegetarian. And so to be able to write those folks a check after all they've done for us was really gratifying.
I'll say shout out to Jonah's LinkedIn page. There's a wonderful video of Jonah as a kid, and I'll say sort of Seth as a kid, because it's kind of a while ago, when you're at the sanctuary and you're seeing these animals for the first time, and Jonah's connection to this rooster and your whole family kind of making the connection that we all hope people make, right? Because ultimately it's about connection. We're all hoping people make the connection that you guys made, which is, I love this rooster. I see the personality of this rooster. This rooster's following us around the sanctuary, and now we're going home to eat chicken. How could that really make sense for us? So yes, you both have such a unique and interesting story. Seth, I'm wondering if you might share if you look for the same thing when you're investing in a company that's not with Eat the Change. So as an investor, how do you look at things?
Funny. So for me, it often just starts with, am I hungry? Like literally, is this something that would fill my diet that's not there? And so I'm on the board of a company called Ripple Foods, which is a plant-based dairy company. And I invested in there because I knew the founders and they were making a product I was thirsty for. I'm not just lactose intolerant, but I'm vegetarian. So to have a plant-based dairy option that has protein and is smooth and creamy that makes sense to invest in. And then another company I invested in was called Happy Baby, and it was organic baby food run by these two wonderful women, Jessica and Shazi. And there I just saw such a passion for changing the food available to babies that that's a great business. I understood why it made sense from an opportunity perspective, because we saw the growth of Honest Kids, our organic kids drink, and I said, well, parents will spend for better products for their kids, and that's what was one of the keys to success for Happy Baby. So it really is personal. I go with my gut on these, and I mean literally my gut what I'm hungry for. But then the other key driver for me is it going to make the world a better place? I've certainly been presented with financially attractive opportunities before, and that's not what drives me at all. I'm only going to invest in something where, if it's successful, it's going to make the world a better place.
I love that. I love that people like you even exist. Sometimes we wonder. That is really just so fantastic. On this show, I've been hearing a lot lately, for those of you VCs watching, looking to get in, I've been hearing a lot lately about plant-based baby food. and this exploding area of development. And of course, it does make so much sense. Parents so willing to spend more on their children. And I don't want to be quoted here. I don't have the study in front of me, and I'm not a scientist, but I'm understanding some of the information behind these businesses are that it is much better for the baby's brain to have vegetables. But I will be following up with everyone and getting you more information on that. Jonah, I'm wondering if you could share something that I think is very interesting. You've spent a lot of time in Israel, and Israel, this show is international. We have people from India and Australia and Europe, and I haven't had an Israeli yet on the show, but I'd love to hear more about the growing plant-based market in Israel, because I understand that it's a very dedicated community. 5%, if not more, of the population is vegan. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, and Tel Aviv is per capita the highest number of vegans of any city in the world. So it certainly is a blossoming movement in Tel Aviv. And I also think, Israel is often the leader when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship and invention. So there's a plethora of companies that are working in this particular space with lab-grown meats, finding plant-based meats to create, and constantly engineering and pivoting and adapting their products to really be cutting edge. So it's known as the startup nation for a reason, and I had the privilege of living there for almost 4 years and got to be very much a part of that high-tech industry, and I think it's going to continue to grow. One downside to the statistics when you look at Israel and the vegan population is it also simultaneously has the highest number of vegans, but it also has one of the highest rates of animal meat consumption. So the people who aren't vegans are
doubling down. Right.
And it has to do with culture and identity. Obviously, our diets are such a huge part of who we are that in a place like the Middle East, where it's so deeply embedded in tradition and in culture and in religion even, that it can be hard for certain parts of the society to distance themselves from that. And I hope that will change, and companies like Beyond Meat are providing products that make it easier than ever to make that switch gentle and delicious.
It will change because there's something called Eat the Change that is helping to educate people about the change and why it's better for them. And there's also people out there doing something called #PlanetDelicious. So look, hats off to you guys, because you are from both angles addressing that problem. And again, I am so grateful for all that you do. I know that Seth's time is a little bit short on this interview, so I'm going to pointedly ask him a couple questions before he runs away. Okay. I'm wondering, Seth, what isn't in the marketplace from a vegan, socially conscious perspective that you'd like to see it's not there yet?
Well, it's funny. We've been talking about some of the opportunities. So cheese is as an area of challenge. We do sell some cheese, cheeseburgers at Plant Burger, but I'd say that's an area where there's still a lot of opportunity for improvement. Also eggs. There are some vegan egg options out there, but I don't feel they're yet at the comparable level. And one of the things we learned very powerfully at Beyond Meat is you can't ask people to make a sacrifice. You can, and some people will. But if you really want to gain mass scale, you have to have substitutions that are, we can say at Beyond Meat says, eat what you love. Let people eat what they love, just do it in a plant-based way. And so I would say that the cheese and egg options aren't yet at the place where people can eat what they love in the same way that I think they can with a burger.
Okay, so you're really looking for better plant-based options in egg and cheese. What about with cellular meat? How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I don't begrudge anybody who's working on it, and I assume that some of it will succeed. But I feel that, going back to what I said, that there's wonderful, delicious things available in nature, and so I'd rather see what we're doing with at Beyond Meat, using existing plants to do that. I'm not yet sure how the cellular meat's going to overcome some of the health concerns. If you're replicating the animal meat directly, you're still going to be have a product with cholesterol and high saturated fat, and some of the other elements of meat that people have found not productive. I also, I'm not sure the technology is going to be available and accessible in a compressed time frame. I mean, we're already selling products at Beyond Meat, so from my point of view, if you can have a great tasting plant-based burger, I don't know, and people are buying it and it's growing, I'm not sure what the benefits are going with cellular meat.
What kind of predictions are you making for the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, a few. One of them, which we've talked about in Beyond Meat and Ethan Brown has said, is we're going to be able to underprice animal-based meat within 5 years in certain categories, and that's going to be extremely powerful because when you have consumers saying, I've got a product that tastes as good as meat, is healthier, better for the environment, and costs less, then why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you move? I don't think humans have an intrinsic need to kill animals and to cause all the suffering that happens through the domesticated livestock industry. So if you can make that product available, I think that becomes very exciting. I'm also willing to predict that concepts like plant burger will have gained much broader availability and traction. And that's, of course, to say there still will be meat restaurants available and around it, but I think our model will help show this is something people can meet all their dietary and culinary desires and do it in a sustainable way. And I think that the success of businesses like ours and like some of the other ones we've been talking about today help demonstrate this approach to business is not just real and legitimate, it's the one that makes sense. And so an extractive, short-minded mindset for business just is has so many negative externalities, some of which we're seeing so vividly today. So I'm very, by definition, I have to be optimistic. I wouldn't be an entrepreneur if I wasn't. And but it's, that said, we're in the middle of some terrible challenges, and I think this different approaches and entrepreneurs are the only ways we'll be able to get out of them. So wonderful to be with you, Elysabeth, and I'll let Jonah take over the rest, but I'm so excited and thankful for this opportunity.
Thank you. I have one parting question that's one sentence. What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
I even 20 years ago, I had no appreciation, or I didn't have enough appreciation for how fun and impactful this can be. I had majored in government in college, and I thought politics was going to be the way that I would make change happen. And I just hadn't anticipated business could be such a powerful way to shape the way people behave, to shape their diet, to shape the way we impact the planet. And that is, I think I always sort of had that political, sort of hankering, like, I got to go do this. And then now I realize that business as its own entity and its own tool can be extremely powerful. And so just to be happy with the impact we're making through these businesses.
I love that you say that, because if we want a secure future, then we need a safe food supply, and a safe food supply is plant-based foods. Thank you, Seth, for being with me. I really do appreciate it. I know Jonah's taken over. It's a father-son tag team today. I love what Seth, your father, is saying about the new business model. To make any sense, has to be willing to be long-term and long in vision, and take on some of these global issues and not be so short-sighted. So it must be very exciting for you to feel as a young person that I'm going to impact major change that I will see in my lifetime.
Yeah. Oh, completely. And I think it speaks to this change that's happening right now, as we're forced into a position where we have to really think about our food system, our economy, our political systems, our way of life, our past ways of life are being jeopardized, and the old way of extracting and abusing the environment or animals has failed us. But again, and I want to stress this idea of failure. Failure implies that there was nothing gained, and that's really never the case. I hope that every time we fail, we can really take something from that and learn and adapt and make something that's better. So I think this is an example, this moment that we find ourselves in. where we've experienced the failure of the systems around us.
Yes.
But we can learn from that, and we can move on and create a brighter future. And that comes with thinking about how we can restructure our businesses to create a new definition of what profits are. The movement of conscious capitalism is really blossoming in this moment as well, as we have to think about how do we treat people in our organizations fairly, and how do we create benefits for them? How do we create regenerative agricultural systems that will increase profits, increase yields long into the future, and not just in the near term? And so again, I think it's really, for me, it's liberating to think that, you know, we can move from extraction to regeneration and a revival of the things that matter most in life, which are happiness and creating more life and sustaining it.
Yes, and connection, which is also what your brand is really all about, making the connection, you know, between each other, because that's what food is about, and to our planet and to our resources. We've become so disconnected from food. You know, some people maybe don't even realize that nuggets come from a chicken. So, you know, it's time to get back to the roots, as you say. And so I love that you say that. You talk a lot about conscious capitalism, which is another great expression that you've used, along with Planet Delicious, something I'm going to keep hashtagging after this. But I'm wondering if you have tips for your fellow millennials, because this is something that your generation is very concerned with. Obviously, you're the ones inheriting the future, so it's smart to be concerned with this. You're actually on the ground making change. To those young people, millennials, who are interested in doing the same, what do you say to them?
Well, I think it's really essential that we step outside of our comfort zones to really consider the butterfly effect of our decisions.
Nice.
So as a young person, I felt disturbed and uncomfortable with the knowledge that my eating of a chicken breast means that someone had to raise and slaughter a chicken in a way that I didn't know about, and I wasn't connected to. And so when I went to study on farms and in college and really do a deep dive into how do these operations work, how do I feel about taking the life of another creature, is that something I want to be a part of? I think that every person should put themselves in that position, and they'll learn a lot about themselves and what they want to do in the world. And, you know, I think that to me it would be my advice, is connect on a deep level to the impact that our consumption choices are having. And it can be very liberating to realize, you know, we don't need to do that. Like we really don't. And we can be perfectly healthy, perfectly happy, and celebrate all the other forms of life on this planet.
Yes, and be perhaps healthier and happier. We're not only like upselling the burger so it's going to taste just as great. No, actually, wait, it's going to taste better. You could actually be healthier and happier. I'll speak for myself. When I finally decided to go vegan, I, lost a little bit of weight, woohoo, and I gained a little bit of energy. Okay, I'll take it. I mean, I already have a lot of energy, but I got even more. But then I realized this huge weight was lifted from me because I hadn't realized how much being disconnected in that, it doesn't align with my personal values to hurt animals. And we all kind of know factory farms are out there. We don't want to sit and think about it, but we kind of know it's out there. And we live with that disconnect where we say, like, it's just happening somewhere else. I'm not going to look. I'm not going to pay attention. And that disconnect in my own life where I wasn't aligning my purchasing power with my values really was holding me back. It was a lot of friction in my life. And I didn't realize that that was there or that I was carrying it until I no longer carried it. And I was like, wow, that was like working against me. So there's a lot of synergy, I think, to kind of finally aligning where your beliefs are in the world with what you actually do with your dollars.
Absolutely. Yeah. I say this phrase to my friends who still eat animals in sort of a joking way, but also to provoke them to really think about it. The phrase, the time-old phrase, put your money where your mouth is. We say it, but we don't really think about it. But if you have these values, then why not align your dollars with those same values? And again, it's this cognitive dissonance that exists all over the place. And we live in a global economy, so even if you really try and implement your values, you're going to be faced with contradictions. I think it's inevitable. But people who love their dogs and their, have pets and really appreciate and respect animal life, if they understood the ramifications of eating a steak, would drop that steak immediately. So just connecting the dots is a really simple, powerful tool that we can use to transition people towards more ethical consumption.
Yes, and I'll also say advocating for oneself. So if you think that what the corporation is telling you or what the government wants you to do is in your best interests, I highly recommend that you advocate for yourself, that you learn for yourselves, which is so great that Eat the Change is going to help us do that. Because please believe me, not all barns are red and not all cows have big, happy, smiling faces. It's no fun to be in a factory farm. So I just a little tiny point of clarification. I think you're vegan, but your dad's vegetarian. Is that right?
We are all vegans in our family now.
Okay, now. Okay.
We were vegetarians for a very long time, and then just recently in 2020 we transitioned finally to becoming vegan. And I'll just say also, shout out to the Game Changers movie. It's been incredibly impactful for so many people who I've known who have rejected all of my arguments before. When they finally watch that movie and realize this is something that's going to make sense for me, I'm going to feel better and have a happier life. It worked for them. And honestly, for us, it was just a matter of dropping cheese out of our diets and eggs. And so we actually, I have to agree with all the things you said. We feel happier, healthier, more energetic since we made that choice.
Well, I'm so pleased then to hear that since you guys dropped cheese and eggs, and your father, Seth Goldman, who's now run off, but he was here with us earlier, he was saying that he's not pleased enough with eggs and cheese in the marketplace. That tells me that your dad's going to start getting on some eggs and cheese, and then we're going to have better eggs and cheese because your dad wants them. So more power to both of you. I'm wondering a couple of quick exit questions, perhaps. If you are having a bad day, and there have been a string of them lately for people around the globe, I'm wondering if there's a phrase that you say to yourself, something to get yourself back in the mood, something to get your mind fixed on right again.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And obviously, not every day is a great day. And I often, there's a phrase I say, and I connect it to usually an action that I take, but I just remind myself, you're living on a planet, which is a simple statement that is incredibly deep, because it is such a gift to have life in the cosmos. The chances of us existing on this planet, and that life, not only life would exist, but it would evolve to be intelligent and sentient and conscious of evolution and everything that's led up to now, is quite a blessing. And that gives me a deeper appreciation for my life and my existence. And when I think about my existence in a cosmic sense, all of my anger and stress from the day are, drift away, because it's not worth getting stressed or sad about. I should be grateful that I'm alive and that I can breathe and think. And so I often go into nature as well, just because seeing the natural world existing is incredibly calming. And it also speaks to the fact that we're all earthlings, and what a gift that is.
I agree. I underscore all of those sentiments, and I say that I also feel grateful that I can contribute. That I really prefer to be a doer, doing whatever I can, whatever skill set I have. Some have better skill sets than I, and I maybe have been afforded something that I can use that someone else can't. So I just feel grateful that I can use whatever I have to make a difference. And that's meaningful to me, along with all the things that you said. So one quick exit question. Come on, give it to me straight. What's your favorite junk food?
Well, this is going to sound self-promoting.
But it's true.
In the beginning of the interview, there is no food that I would rather have than a juicy, delicious burger. And recently I've been getting a barbecue burger with jalapenos, and the depth of flavor, the spiciness, that's my favorite. And then I also say Ethiopian food, injera, is also really good. I love eating with my hands. That to me is like my favorite junky deliciousness. I don't really have a sweet tooth, so I have to say I go with a savory burger and a nice plate of injera.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to try Plant Burger. I was looking over the menu, which I think is so reasonably priced. Everything is so delicious. I'll be putting up pictures later on social media and when this interview comes out. So I hope that you expand to Chicago and Los Angeles, or I'm just going to have to get myself to Washington, D.C. and Maryland when I'm allowed. Jonah, I want to thank you for being with me on the Plant-Based Business Hour. Seth, your father and co-founder, Seth Goldman, was here a while back, but thank you both for all you do. I'm very excited to see who gets the first grants out of Eat the Change. So for those of you who are looking to apply, Eat the Change, which is giving $1 million away over the next 3 years to approximately 20 to 25 businesses and non-for-profits. Those applications, just go to eatthechange.org, I believe.
Yes.
Those applications are open until May 15th. So you still have a chance to get a little bit of extra financial support to help you with your mission, which we all want you to do. So check that out. And then, of course, if you are in Maryland or Washington, D.C., Plant Burger, it is your go-to. It's in Whole Foods, so go find it. And you can also check them out at their website, and I'm going to look for lots of expansion so I can get juicy burgers as well. I super appreciate you being with me, Jonah.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And on behalf of my father, I really do want to commend you so much and say thank you for creating this platform to talk about these issues and interviewing and spreading the word about how uplifting and important a plant-based diet can be.
Oh, thank you so much. It does take a village. I hope you both will come back, and I can't wait to watch all your progress.
We'd love to. Thank you so much again.
Bye, everybody. Just a quick word to all my viewers before we duck out. The Plant-Based Business Hours every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Jane Unchained. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all the rest of it. And the same with Plant Burger. Plant Burger's on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. So follow us both. And together we're taking back our health and the health of the planet. Bye, everybody.